This is my sugar glider Sydney, and I wanted to talk about just kind of some of the anatomy and things about sugar gliders that I've done some research about, and any good new pet owner should do this. And so right now, and the reason I've got her head covered is because she is asleep. And so sugar gliders sleep the entire day. And when they go to sleep, they go into a kind of hibernation. And the type of hibernation that they go into is actually called torpor. And that's spelled Torpor. And so during that time of torpor, they do wake up periodically, but when they wake up, they're actually not awake. They open their eyes and they might move around some, but they're actually still asleep. And so with Sydney right now, she's asleep, and I can move her around some, and she might open her eyes, look around, she might fidget a little bit, but she's actually still asleep. And so I wanted to show you some of the interesting anatomy of sugar gliders. So the first thing is their back feet. Let me see if I can get her into a better position without getting her too riled up. So it's okay. There we go. So this back foot is just awesome. It has an opposable thumb that you can see here. So it has the four fingers here. Now, two of them, these two here, are actually fused together, and that's a little comb that they use to clean their fur. They're extremely clean animals. You never give them a bath, you never get them wet. They can actually die from that. And so they clean themselves just constantly. It might look like they have fleas, but they don't. They don't get parasites like that. And so they use this little fused two fingers to clean themselves. And so they scratch themselves, and then they lick those two fingers to clean it. And then this is the little opposable thumb, and you can see how it moves just like a thumb. And it looks kind of like a monkey foot, and it doesn't have a nail on it, and it actually moves just like our thumb, and it makes it so that they can hang upside down, and when they're getting out in the wild, they're getting nectar and things, so they hang from branches and things. And that foot is just one of the most awesome things, I think, about sugar gliders. And so I just really wanted to give you an up-close view of what that foot looks like. You don't get to see that very often, even if you own one. You really have to get them like this when they're in the state of torpor, and you can kind of move them around. The next thing that I wanted to show you is, let me get it here, see if I can move her around a little bit, is this skin that is their wing. I like to think of it like a little ruffle, because it looks like a ruffle when they're just kind of moving around. But you can see that it's just a really stretchy. Let me see if I can get my camera moved up a little bit more. It's just a really stretchy piece of skin. It's kind of floppy. There's no muscles in it. They have no muscle control of it. Move her a little closer here. So see how she's moving around a little bit. She's actually not awake. She's just moving. So this is her little wing skin, just floppy. And Sydney is just a standard gray. There she is. Like I say, even though her eyes are open, she's still asleep. She just, she's not sure what's going on at the moment because I'm kind of, moving her around and stuff, and she just wants to get covered up again. So I'm going to just cover her head up again and let her get comfortable again for a minute, and she'll just close her eyes and go back to sleep. And I have had Sydney for about 2 months now. We're pretty well into the bonding process. She still does want to jump off of me, so we're still working on that. She's a pretty independent little girl, and I'm a first-time owner, so I'm still learning about the bonding process. And I did get her as a single. I do have my second one, my second sugar glider. Her name is Coral, and she has been out of the pouch for 6 weeks. I will get her in 3 weeks. But being a first-time owner, I really wanted to, and I know some people are going to say this is terrible, that I'm an awful person, whatever. I know my limitations, and I wanted to, I didn't want to have to deal with anxiety. I have an anxiety disorder, and I wanted to be able to do this at my pace. So I spend 18 hours a day with Sydney, and pretty much holding her and taking care of her. I'm retired, so I have that opportunity, and I take this commitment very seriously. So anyway, back to Sydney. Another very cool thing about Sydney, about sugar gliders, are their tails. And let me move her away just a little bit so you can see this awesome tail. It's long. She curls it up. Now, sugar gliders' tails are considered to be kind of a faux prehensile tail, because it is prehensile in the fact that they have muscles in it, they can curl it up, but it's not a real prehensile tail, because it doesn't have enough muscles in it for them to hold themselves, so they can't hang by it like a monkey can. They can't grasp things with it or do anything like that. They primarily use it to curl around themselves for warmth. So it is a prehensile tail, but it's not a real prehensile tail. So let's see if I can get her one of her little front feet. There we go. There's one of her front feet up close. These all do have claws on them, and if you don't trim them, they are needle sharp. And I mean needle sharp. When they crawl on your bare skin, they will pierce your bare skin. It doesn't really hurt super bad, but it leaves little pinprick marks and it looks like you have a rash. So you do trim them. And for Sydney, because I've figured out how to be able to move her around when she's in this state of torpor, I can usually trim 2 of her paws at a time. Usually by the second one, she's figured out what I'm doing, and I can't do anymore. So it takes me 2 days to trim her nails. But you do want to keep just the very tips trimmed. You can see how they're curved, and right now they're trimmed. So they're just kind of dull at the end. Um, when they're sharp, they just have, you almost can't see them. They just have these little needles, and you have to be really careful because they do have a quick. Thank you for making it closer. They do have a quick, and so you have to be really careful not to get up into the quick. So you really just take off the very, very tips. And you want to make sure not to get this little nubby thing. It's a little tricky, but you don't want to cut off too much because this is how they climb, is by being able to grasp between these 2 little edges. So it's important to keep them trimmed so that you're not getting pricked all the time. But there's her cute little hand, and here's where it's connected to her little wing. It's just awesome. I think sugar gliders are just the most awesome little animals. And I'm gonna see if I can turn her over. Sometimes she'll let me. It depends on how deep in her torpor she is. And let me see if I can get her to calm down with turning her over. Looks like she might. So, sugar gliders are marsupials. So they do have a pouch. And here is her little pouch, which is just so fascinating. And the pouch actually is vertical rather than horizontal. So the pouch has room for 2 joeys, one on each side. So one joey would be here and one joey would be here and one joey would be here. And so of course the birth canal is down here. And when they have a fertilized little, I can't think of what it's called, but it's about the size of a piece of rice, and it looks like a piece of pink rice, and it crawls right up here and gets into the pouch. And there's 2 little nipples in here that the joey's attached to. And when they're in the pouch is actually when she's considered to be pregnant. And there's lots of cool videos that show the birth of sugar gliders, and they are just the most awesome videos, very fascinating. I'm never going to breed Sydney. I don't have any desire to have any joeys or to do any of that kind of stuff. I just plan on enjoying Sydney, and when I get Coral, enjoying them as pets. I just love these little guys. Like I said, I'm a new owner, and I've just become really fascinated. I have always known that sugar gliders are not cage pets. I mean, they're not pets that you just leave in the cage and watch. They are pets that you have to be very dedicated to. You have to dedicate a lot of time, a lot of energy. They like to be with their owners. And so I waited until I was retired to have one, and I actually just became retired a couple, well, let's see, almost a month ago, and I've had Sydney. Well, I guess she's 2 months old. I've had her for a month. So I am just spending. I love I love the time when she's asleep, because just like this, I can just sit and hold her, and she's calm, and she I have several different types of pouches and scarves, and she just rides around me when I'm doing my housework. She goes to the grocery store with me. She's been to the theater with me, and nobody knows she's there because she's asleep, but I know she's there. And I just love her. And she is a sugar glider that does not pee or poop when she's in her pouches. So I kind of lucked out there, because some sugar gliders do pee or poop in their pouches. So she doesn't, so I don't have to worry about that. She has traveled with me. I live in Seattle. She's traveled with me to Montana. So far, my little dog and her don't care for each other. Sydney crabs at my dog Lily. Lily runs away from her. They have been in close proximity to each other, and they just, my dog just walks away. She doesn't really want to be around her, and Sydney just kind of crabs and doesn't really want to have anything to do with her. So they say that sometimes they'll bond with other pets, but my dog is 14 years old, so it may not happen, and that's fine. But my dog is very docile, and so I don't have any fears of her ever trying to attack or do anything like that. So here, she's a little bit unhappy right now, but those are kind of some of the things that I find very interesting about sugar gliders, and I just wanted to share that. So I'm glad I had that opportunity, and thank you for watching. Say bye-bye, Sydney. Bye.